Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Lord KO here. We have another pretty interesting video on the channel here today. We have a top 5 marksmen / shoots for Dissidia Nt. So this is more of a collaborative project that I had with what I consider to be the top shoots within the community. Reached out to them to see what they thought, what their thoughts were, my thoughts, and kind of cross compare them. They all sent back some pretty great stuff, honestly, like some essays and stuff like that, with their justifications and footage and stuff like that. So shout out to everybody that helped bring this project to life. I appreciate you guys. Just a quick reminder, I do stream every Friday and Saturday on Twitch. Also give me a follow on Twitter if you want to talk to me about any of this, or if you want to debate it, you know, what you think your top 5 is. Definitely feel free to leave it in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe if you like the content here, or if you just want to kind of suggest new content in the future. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the video, guys. Okay guys, to start it off, we have probably my favorite Final Fantasy IV character, Mr. Golbeza. Now the way we're going to do this, guys, we're going to break this down to some of the strengths and weaknesses for each shoot that appears on this list. So just to start off with, Golbez. This character is actually the bane of my existence most of the time. He's really good. He is a neutral monster. And honestly, most matches generally go something like this.
What kind of shit is that?
And while that clip was mostly for comedic purposes, fighting a Golbez can very much feel like that 99% of the time. As a team's Brave battery, it's really just his job to coast in the back and build Brave and then force you to play his game. So let's start by going over some of the positive aspects of Golbez and what he really excels in. As mentioned before, his neutral game is absolutely insane. His EX skill is also quite insane. Binding Cold has that lingering disjointed hitbox. You might feel like he got out of it, but not really. It's exceptional. He is really good at controlling the momentum of the game. And if your teammates understand that they're with the Golbez and they're willing to protect him accordingly, he can pretty much get the whole job done for you. He can keep pretty much all the characters in check. Has great defensive options. Aquasphere is really good, has really great tracking, builds a lot of Brave as well. Pretty good knockback on hit as well. It's just a really great defensive option. And with tied with summons like Shiva, it just starts getting real silly out there. They did go back and retool the way that his dragon decrease works, so he's rewarded now for landing hits without dragon. Okay, now that we reviewed why Golbez is definitely one of the more unique powerhouse shoots in the game, let's go over some things that maybe aren't so rosy. Some of the negatives that we have listed for Golbez here is, number 1, the dragon mechanic. It goes without saying the dragon mechanic is definitely the double-edged sword when it comes to Golbez. With all the just raw power that he gets being on the field, the moment that he loses 1,000 hit points, he loses his dragon, and all of his magic becomes extremely neutered, like laughably bad. So having that in mind really changes the entire tempo and you wanting to pick Golbez at the character select screen. Another thing would be that Golbez's holds are somewhat subpar. He can hold, however, it can only really be done on the ground outside of Binding Cold. So that is something that really is, depending on what kind of comp you have and what kind of players you're playing with, is going to be something that can be seen as a bit of a detriment. Overall, his holds are somewhat underwhelming, just to be honest. The entire team really has to play around the Golbez. If he builds Brave fast enough, he can really change that tempo. But if he doesn't build the Brave for whatever reason, that should never happen. The entire match is going to be you guarding the Golbez, waiting for him to kind of build that Brave up. So in closing, Golbez, with his very well-deserved placement of number 5 on this list, has a lot of great things going for him. If you have a really strong team comp that understands how to play around the Golbez properly, he can pretty much he can set play pretty effortlessly, honestly. But if you know how to get in on him and really outplay the player and Golbez's defensive options, you can really invalidate him as well. So it really comes down to it's really player dependent. So I mean, I would say Golbez is a very good pick as long as you're not doing stuff like this. Why would you go over there and try and like,
No.
what are you doing?
How do we lose neutral with a Golbez?
And for my mans in the video, sorry man, we all been there. So that's gonna wrap it up for our boy Golbez coming in at number 5. Now going to the number 4 slot, this has to be the character that has had the most glow up ever in Dissidia Nt. Let's take a look. Coming in at number 4, we have Miss Y'shtola. Probably universally considered to be the worst shoot for the games, the majority of the game's lifespan, for at least 3.5 years until she got her massive rework, which was essentially akin to putting a brand new character in a game. That character, that empty character slot, was now filled. A lot of things that she can do now are just quite excellent. In fact, let's take a look at some of her strengths. Number 1, straight out the gate, her versatility is very high on the marksman list. Her ability to adapt pretty much the fluid nature of the game at any given point using her 2 forms, Conjurer and Thaumaturge, is almost unparalleled for a shoot for sure. She can really adapt to every situation. You know, if she needs to hold, she can switch to Thaumaturge. If she needs to be defensive, she can switch it to Conjurer. Honestly, I've went entire scrims, I'm talking, you know, 2.5 hours of only playing in Conjurer, and never felt like, wow, I actually need to switch. Both forms are uniquely viable. And the fact that she has both of them it really puts her in a different league when it comes to most shoots. She has really great Braves overall. Her kits in both forms are quite excellent, in fact. It really effortlessly can build Brave, honestly. She can really just stack up Brave quite easily. Has really great defensive options as well when she's in Conjurer, Pseudo Fake Core, as well as Aeroga in the air. Has really great tracking, can really just make the speed feed as much as possible, and until she racks up her Brave. When she's in Thaumaturge, she has really excellent projectiles. She has really great holds. She just has it all, honestly. Her versatility is almost unparalleled when it comes to shoots. Now, with both of her forms come 2 uniquely excellent EX skills. First one in Thaumaturge is going to be Foul, which is essentially like a Bravery Conduit on crack. It covers a much larger radius than Bravery Conduit, and it's really exceptional for crowd control, making people move, which is really important in this game, exceptionally if you're trying to get the core. If you're trying to get the core and somebody puts Foul there, they now have to make a decision between potentially getting broken or trying to get the core. You know, that's being able to play that card at any point is really good. And then while she's in Conjurer, she has Ethereal Pulse, which actually builds HP and Brave up, which is really good, especially if you play your cards right and you use it during a summon phase. You can actually get back quite a bit of health, you know, and build Brave in order to really maximize that final summon attack and try and KO a couple characters on the enemy team. Okay, so let's talk about some negatives when it comes to Y'shtola. So first and foremost, her durability game when in Thaumaturge really isn't that great. She's dealing with like a Golbez with Dragon or Shantoto, or even like a leveled up ulti. Any character that has really high durability projectiles on the field, she's going to have to switch to Conjurer to deal with them unless she uses her Surge Brave. She can't combat them one-to-one in Thaumaturge. In Conjurer, she does quite fine, but in Thaumaturge, you're going to have to rely on those Surge Braves in order to like interrupt startup and stuff like that, in order to make sure that you're not constantly getting interrupted or knocked back and stuff like that. So another negative that we have here listed for Y'shtola is going to be her lack of defensive options while in Thaumaturge. That really is the aggressive state that she wants to be in. However, if you get called out, you know, say somebody's, you know, target swaps on you at the last second, you don't really have anything to defend yourself. You know what I mean? You have to switch to Conjurer, and then that's going to adjust your EX skill cooldown, which can be a big deal depending on when you're planning on using it. And the other thing is going to be, while in Conjurer, a lot of your moves are static. So with your moves being static, for a very aware shoot, you could constantly be getting searched. You just have to be a bit more mindful about how you use those projectiles and just making sure you're out of range of the enemy players. But as we get higher and higher up this list, guys, a lot of the negatives will be quite short because we're dealing with the upper crust of the shoots. We're dealing with the best of the best. So don't expect to see a lot of negatives going forward, just because these characters are really good. Okay, and that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for the Queen of Final Fantasy XIV, Y'shtola. Very well-deserved spot here at number 4. And let's move on to number 3 on our countdown list. Coming in at number 3, we have everybody's favorite toxic little elf, Shantoto from Final Fantasy XI. Now, Shantoto is a very, very interesting character. She has two unique forms, as we'll cover in both her strengths and her negatives. Let's go ahead and kick off with the strengths, okay? So, first and foremost, Shantoto play type is definitely more of a Brave battery. Very much akin to like an Ace or a Golbez. Their job is just to stack up Brave, and their tool set allows them to do so quite effortlessly. Her projectiles, while in her base form, are huge. Like literally they are like normally 3 or 4 times her actual physical size, and they occupy a large range of the screen, and they're really great for just overall crowd control and just for building a lot of Brave from unsuspecting opponents. In tandem with that, her other really great attributes is number one, her EX skill is absolutely bonkers. It's actually just wild. She is able to build Brave while being in a completely invulnerable state, and she can only mash teleport right after to make it relatively safe. So that's Shantoto will always get Brave and have a high amount of Brave in most cases. Another thing that Shantoto in base form absolutely excels in is just overall defense. So most sheets will be carrying teleport anyway, but in particular to her EX skill, along with her actual defensive option of being able to produce a tornado on the ground and just any homing projectiles like the water orb that she can produce, it makes it an actual minefield for the speed to be able to get in on her. So she's really good at just self-defense, and it really makes it quite tricky to be able to call her out in most cases. Alright, now let's take a look at what I consider to be the strongest aspect, positive aspect when it comes to Shantoto by far. And that's going to be her ability to go into what's known as Rage Form. So Rage Form is affectionately referred to as Potato Mode. And let's see, are you a potato or not? Let's take a look. Have you ever looked at a potato and felt a certain sense of kinship, as if somehow you belong among them? Well, look no further. We have a foolproof patented 3-question test to help identify if you are indeed a potato. Question 1. Are you able to hold opponents globally with lightning bolts? Does your dash attack bio have otherworldly tracking? Is share HP your bestest friend ever? Congratulations! If you answered yes to all 3 questions, you are indeed a verified, certified potato. Okay, let's round this out with going over some of the negative aspects of Shantoto, some areas of opportunity, if you will. So, major thing with Shantoto, first and foremost, is going to be outside of Rage Mode, she does not have any holds, so she's definitely in the same boat as Golbez. No real holds at all until she goes into Rage Mode, and then she gets absurdly good holds. So if you don't really go into Rage Mode often, or you're not running share HP, that is something to definitely consider. Outside of that, her startups on her moves take ages, like almost tied with Emperor, if not maybe even a little slower. So that means that you could easily get searched trying to perform any of her Brave attacks in her base form. And then the final thing that we have here is her core breaking ability. This is something that a few people actually brought up, and I actually didn't think about this a lot until it was brought up by the other marksmen that I consulted, is that her core breaking ability when not in Rage Mode is quite bad. So it just, if you're trying to get that core, being in Rage Mode normally isn't the best thing, because you're just not going to be able to demolish the core as fast as other characters for sure. Okay, and that's going to be it for our Potato Princess Shantoto, coming in at number 3 on the list. Now we're down to the big 2. So who do we have at that number 2 slot? Let's take a look. Coming in at number 2, Uni is here. Yuna of Final Fantasy X notoriety is going to be our number 2 pick for top 5 marksman. Her overall toolkit, her brave attacks, her EX skill, and just her positives that she brings to the table and for a team comp are exceedingly good. We'll be breaking down some of the positives and some things that just she might struggle with just a bit, some negatives as well. So let's go ahead and get into this. Okay, so now let's start taking a look at some of Yuna's brave attacks. So Yuna, in my opinion, bar none, has some of the best versatility for a marksman without a stance change. Now, Isola has very good versatility, but it does require going into a completely different form. Yuna kind of has an answer for everything almost. The way they designed her kit, she really can be quite fluid and really adapt to the situation as it evolves. That just really makes her an insane force when she's on the field. She can really make her presence felt at all times. From the insane holds of Pasado to the really great crowd control of Wakazashi, Yuna really has an answer for every different scenario, honestly. She can just enable her teammates so well. Like, it really is just, she is one of the best enablers in the entire game. She can really create those opportunities in order for you to get in, to disrupt, to knock back. I think she's definitely one of the best at doing that when it comes to a marksman. Now let's talk about Yuna's excellent EX skill. The ability to summon Valifor to the battlefield is really nothing short of game changing. Whether it's using Sonic Wings to cut opponents or Energy Ray to build Brave and Energy Nova to actually KO opponents, she damn near always has an answer. But what if I told you this used to be even better during a very, very dark era for the NT community that we try not to think about? In fact, I can actually show you better than I can tell you.
Police! Help! Police! Help! Police! Help! Help!
Question number 1, why was Wakazashi moving that fast? Number 2, why did Great World have instant startup? I would show you guys more footage, but this is going to be classified underneath Crimes Against Humanity. If I put any more of this footage out there, I will be going to jail. That's certified. So that's going to cap us off talking about the positive aspects of Yuna, both her EX skill and just her Braves and screen control and things of that nature. Now let's talk about her negatives. From pretty much everybody that I polled, there was really only one consistent thing that came up with Yuna, was that she has a lack of high durability projectiles. Only her dash attack has high durability. So depending on the enemy marksman that you're combating, that can be a little troublesome, depending if they know the matchup really well. And also learning Valifor micromanagement, that is something that takes a little bit of a trend of time, because there's so many EX skills that she has access to. And that's going to do it for the number 2 slot, the Queen of Besaid, Yuna, coming in at number 2, very strong showing. And we have the grand finale up here right now, guys. Who do you think is number 1? Let's take a look. Coming in at number 1, we do have Miss Tara Branford, widely considered to be the best shoot in the game for the entirety of the game's lifespan, or the majority of it at least. She just has never really wavered from that top spot. She might have had a little bit of tumbles when new shoots came out, particularly like Yuna. When Yuna was vanilla, I think she definitely was the best shoot in the game. But after Tara's massive rework, a lot of people were definitely counting her out, me included. I definitely was saying she's weird now, she's very strange. But little did we know, guys, that she had everything still intact and she had just got even better. So let's review some of the positive things when it comes to Tara. Number 1, she has the best projectile in the game. Charge fire on the ground, has insane tracking, insane distance, and it can actually display the game for you. If you have very good awareness and target selection, that one move will guarantee that the enemy team always is having issues with collecting Brave, and you can disrupt very well and very safely as well. That's one thing about Tara, having access to her uncharged and charged moves. Her charge moves allow you to do them at such a distance that you're almost always perpetually safe, honestly. And if you tie that with something like Trance, you can actually play the whole game for like almost 2-3 rings away and be completely fine. Being in Trance and having the ability to do Meteor from 40 meters away, it's just no one else in the game is really allotted that kind of thing. It's just absolutely insane, actually. And it really is something that pushes her towards the top consistently. Anytime we have this discussion about top marksmen, you have to put into account that she has Trance and she has Trance Meteor. That always has to be in the discussion. In fact, I actually have some footage, some lost footage here from the development team from Tara going into Trance, if you guys want to take a look. Now, the only real thing of note when it comes to Tara that can be seen as a particular negative is going to be that she has to really manage her charge and uncharged moves. Her uncharged moves are really good for holding, specifically like her neutral Brave Fire, really great for holding and setups. All her uncharged moves is really hard to set up with outside of like maybe self setup with Ice, Charge Ice. But that's going to be one kind of negative for her. And the other thing when it comes to Tara is she only has 1 HP attack. The only one that's really viable is going to be Meteor. You can use Meltdown, but it's just not what it used to be. It used to do things like this. You remember this? But alas, that day is long gone. So Tara is going to be the reigning queen of marksmen, probably indefinitely. The game's no longer receiving any updates, but it's a pretty safe shot to say that her toolkit in its current iteration, and with it not being updated or tweaked at all ever again, it's always going to remain strong, and it's just going to be something that you're always going to have to deal with. And that just alone just makes her a very, very potent shoot, and the best shoot, the #1 marksman that we have picked here today. Now, one thing I want to kind of close on is that despite this being a top 5 list, don't let this deter you from picking who is fun for you. Pick who you want to play. Every single marksman in this game is viable, so don't feel like turned off that your marksman didn't make it or anything like that. Every single marksman in this game is viable, and besides, you all know who the real best is anyway. And that's going to do it for our top 5 marksman list. I hope you guys had as much fun actually listening to this as I had making it. This is definitely by far my favorite project so far. If you guys like the content, definitely share it. Subscribe to the channels. Hit me up on Twitter so you know when the next content's coming. And throw me some suggestions. You know what I mean? I have a couple ideas, but I always want to hear from you guys. But until next time, see you guys later.